Stormbringer magazine, issue 40 and 41. The Spirit of Dorthu, a fine big model. Let's see what sort of treatment we give it. Hello and welcome to The Lucky Roll, an eclectic channel for eclectic games. And today we're going to be doing issues 40 and 41 of our continuing series of Hachette's Stormbringer magazine on Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Now we're going to be doing two magazines in this particular issue because it comes with a huge model called the Spirit of Dorthu, which is quite frankly an epic model. A very fun model to paint, but very detailed orientated. So with no further ado, let's have a look at the two issues. So the start of issue 40 focuses on the Soulblight Gravy Lords, which are basically a vampiric faction. They're vampire lords that rule over the beasts of night and hordes of obedient, shambling corpses. They have their own kind of form of dynasties, so you have a kind of a ranked aspect here where you've got Nagash the Great Necromancer, the Legion of Night, the Legion of Blood, the Verkers dynasty, the Castellai dynasty, and the Avengori dynasty. And you have nobility of the Vampire Knights that actually tear through the battlefield. They won't fight ordinary boring people, they'll only fight worthy opponents, so they'll actually trample those they consider unworthy to fight, in their haste to get an actual proper fight. You have a faction here which is the Feast of Bones, which was the Bone Reapers against the gluttonous Ogres. So basically fighting for scraps and especially bones for some bizarre reason. You have different aspects here of the battle itself. So again, all Games Workshop, beautiful photography. You have here the big man himself, Sigmar, the God King. So it gives you a nice little kind of breakdown on the big bio himself. You have here the Genesis, and he's the Archon Ever-Chosen, the Lord of Chaos, who tried to destroy the world in a violent apocalypse. You have the Coming of Sigmar, where he came back to the world after the forces of Chaos won. The Coming of Chaos, and basically Chaos coming back for another round after Sigmar came back and tried to fix things. And you have the Storm Vaults, where an awful lot of these things they're worth fighting over would be kind of relics from, say, some of the old world things like that. You have the Stormcast Eternals, which is where the God King rules over them in Azyr, and you have what is now known as the Age of Sigmar, which is the latest part of the lore for the Warhammer fantasy. You have the Spirit of Dorthu himself here. So what he is basically he's a forest being, and that was descended from a great hero in the world that was. So in the world that was destroyed prior to this, they've taken the bravest heroes of that and put them into the Spirit of Dorthu. So they're essentially kind of champions, or if they were in 40k, kind of like dreadnoughts. They're big, huge, powerful beings. They're stalwart defenders and formidable fighters, and they serve as ambassadors for Ariel the Everqueen and life wards for important Sylvaneth leaders. So they're the elite bodyguards of the Everqueen and handpicked for their loyalty among the spirits of Dorthu. They never hesitate to bring nature's wrath upon their foe, slashing and stamping until their task is done, and stamping is very apt because these are fairly big bios. You have here some of the traits, and you have here how to build. Now, this is a delicate build. Be careful when you're snipping because there's a lot of fiddly little bits here, as you can see. So do it slowly and do it carefully because it's a very nice model, and it'd be an awful shame if you kind of ruined significant pieces of it in your haste to kind of snip it out. You have some more order tactics on how to use a Storm Strike Chariot, how to use the Griff Hounds, how to use the Hobgrot Slitters, and you have here the Mash Krala Sloggoth. So it just gives you a little bit of information on how to use them. And you have here the Pitched Battle, which is Out of the Shadows, where you have a new faction between the Alliance of Order and the Alliance of Destruction. And of course we go straight on to issue 41, which is the second part of the Spirit of Dorthu, and this one focuses on the realm of metal. Now there's these guys called the Arcanauts of the Cardoran Overlords, which are basically sky dwarfs. So I'm sure if you're passing by a Games Workshop, you see these kind of blimps and kind of sky dwarf types of guys. This is the faction where they're basically it's a realm that's ever changing, and its lands are torn apart and reordered by cosmic forces. So the dwarves have been forced to the sky. They're one of the major powers in Shaman, and they kind of inhabit floating sky ports. You have here, just giving you a little bit more information on why the land is in flux and what the war in the realm of metal is like. You have here a kind of a new technique called dry brushing. Now this is, if you're new to painting, worth reading, because dry brushing adds just that little bit of extra magic to an awful lot of your painting. So it's something that's worth looking up and worth paying attention to, because as you can see here, even on some of the old, like the fountains you got in the previous issue, by just doing a bit of a dry brush, you can kind of add an awful lot to it. You have here how to paint the Spirit of Durthu, and there is quite a bit to it. It's not something I'd rush through, and of course this is what you'll get with the paints up to this point, and it's a good starting point because I'm sure, no doubt, that you want to feel them. But there are some very good YouTube videos out there on how to paint, and I watched quite a few of them, and it's worth a watch because it'll teach you as well as a painter how to kind of do a little bit better. You have here the War Scroll for the Spirit of Durthu, the War Scroll tutorials, and something also that is very interesting, which is called a Realm Scout Battle Pack. Now this is the first time we've had this in this series. Basically, it's a series of linked battles that form a narrative campaign, and it contains rules and instructions that apply to all battles in the campaign. But over the next several issues, the battle plans you receive will be part of this battle pack, and each will have its own rules and instructions for that particular battle. So part of the fun of this is kind of narrative campaigns, and this is basically showing you how to do it and getting you through the very first steps of it. So this is a very interesting little issue as well, because a huge part of this game, of course, is your own narrative kind of orders, campaigns, giving a kind of an incentive for your models to play, and, you know, giving them a bit of background as well to play. So with no further ado, let's have a look at the Spirit of Durthu itself. Now this was a model that took a long time to paint, but I'm very happy how it came out, because it's a very epic looking model, but there's a lot of paints in it. There's a huge amount of detail everywhere, and it's something that if you're traveling with, I'd pack very carefully, because all these branches and things here are very finicky, very easy to break off. But as you can see, there is great detail to it. You have different kind of flashy runes, there's your kind of magic, you have the claw, you have the sword itself, you have the actual spirit. I mean, it's an epic looking model, and he is actually huge. So if you put, say, another little model next to it, he towers over them. It's a model that did take a significant amount of time to paint. I've watched paint guides where, you know, they assemble it all first and then do bits and bits by painting, but I actually found that I painted and assembled bit by bit by bit. So by doing that, I was able to get into the nooks and crannies of the actual model a lot easier, and it also made sure that I took it slow and carefully to kind of put it together. I'm quite proud of this model. It's not something that I ever would have painted, but now that I have it, quite frankly, I love it. But I would be honest with you, I wouldn't rush out to buy another one. There is variance in this. You do get alternative builds. Hachette show you one build, but if you're someone who's picked up 2 or 3 of these magazines, because this is obviously a great value model to get, there is alternative builds, and I have no doubt that you'll be able to find kind of the instructions for the alternative on your own online quite easily. But again, just an epic model. You have here the kind of the tabard with skulls. You have the sword here, which is kind of an earthy glowy color. You have this kind of bone claw thing. You have runes all over it, and the bark armor. So you can kind of see that the flesh of the creature is here underneath, and that this is just kind of a mask rather than its face. But the armor itself is all wooden bark oak. So you can kind of see a little bit more here, exposure of the creature or the old war hero that is underneath, and the actual monster itself. But quite frankly, a brilliant issue to get, and if you are buying these out of sequence, definitely one I urge you to try and find and get, because for me this was a great painting lesson. I'm quite happy with how it came out, and it's not as difficult as you think if you do it in small little baby steps and take it slowly. So, as always, this was issue 40 and 41 of Hachette Stormbringer magazine. If you like these videos, please like, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. And until next time, good luck, God bless, and see you for issue 42.